Hello everyone and welcome in. So if you're new, welcome. If you have joined me before, please be sure to leave a comment or question about anything in today's lesson. And if you're new, don't be shy. Feel free to ask questions. And if you're watching this in the replay, leave a comment and I will do my best to answer your question. So in today's lesson, we're going to be looking at how to use Noteflight for your music business, your music students, whether you're a teacher, a musician, a music creative, music teacher, whatever you do in your music, I strongly suggest Noteflight. Just to put it out there, I have used a Sibelius and Finale in the past, and while they were very good at what I needed at the time, because of the type of music that I'm creating now and for the audience that I'm serving, Noteflight is working amazing. So without further ado, I'm going to take you back into my computer. And today we're actually not going to be working on the G major scalar form, but I do have this open because I want to show you from the very beginning exactly what to do. So the first thing you'll want to do is obviously you need a Noteflight account. And I don't know if I have a link for that, but just type in noteflight.com and then their site will come up. So you're going to hover over a little note, and the first thing you want to do is click create. And once you click create, it will bring up a score for you, and then together we're going to decide which type of score that we're going to, what the Noteflight will help us populate. It's the one thing I really enjoy about Noteflight. It's mostly intuitive. So we're going to start. So it gives you a couple options. You can start from a blank score sheet, and it has all of these different options. But for this purpose, and also you can import an XML file, which is helpful as well. But for today, we're going to click piano, and then all you're going to do is click OK, and then it automatically populates. Now, while that is loading, and there it is, just to let you know, let me show you one thing right quick. So the piece that we're going to be adding today is I Saw Three Ships. So this piece actually, I had this piece somewhere and it got lost in my Google Drive, and I couldn't find the XML, which would have been a much easier way to just import it into Noteflights. But I thought, what an excellent way that we can work together, and hopefully you can learn how to start composing your own music in Noteflight. So that's the piece we're working on today. So let's jump back into the computer. So here we have a blank score. This is the piano score, treble clef and bass clef. Now let's start by putting in the title. And remember, you can always go back and change this later. And for the, let's put Old English. And then if you want to add something like an arranger, just push return and put arranged or arranger. MoveOverMozart, that's the name of my company. We're not going to add lyricist. All right, so the first thing we want to do is let's see. Let me make sure everything is good here. Okay, so now we have, we don't need the color, so let's X out of the color, which we can decide to use later. But if you want to take away any of the prompts, all you have to do is hover over the three lines here and then just uncheck whatever the prompt line is. But I like to see this, the duration, tempo, we can change that later, so let's take that off. Measures are important. Okay, that looks good. So I usually have the notes, the measures and the duration showing, and sometimes the score. At the same time, we don't necessarily need that, so I'll take that off. Okay, so now we have the title, arranger, tempo will change later. So in this arrangement that I'm making, it is in F major. So the first thing you want to do is there's two little long rectangular lines here, and you want to highlight both of those and then hover over the change key signature. So you click on that, and then we're going to be composing this in F. So, and make sure the mode is on major, click OK, and that sets the entire piece in F major. Now the other part that you want to change is then hover over time signature, change time signature, and I am actually, this is in 3/4. So you see I've changed the time signature here, visibility, everything's good. So those are the basic elements that you want. Okay, so let's just go ahead and save that. And I have to say, I don't think that Noteflight automatically doesn't do autosave, so you want to go and save often as you're working. All right, so now I have a keyboard right here. I'm not sure if you can see that, but I'm going to turn my chair a little bit. Now the keyboard that I'm using is the Impact XL25. This actually wasn't my first choice, but over time I've grown to, it's worked really well because it's small and I can, have my computer here and the microphone so you can hear me, and then the keyboard. So the first thing, so we have a pickup note, and what we'll do is we're going to change this rest, we're going to change it to 3 rests, and I'll tell you why in a second. So the first thing you want to do is we're going to highlight that a rest because we're going to change that to a C. Okay. Make sure my volume is up so you can hear it. And then the next note, and then what we'll do, because this is a pickup line, and we don't want those, we don't want the rest to show. It's a super easy fix. Just click on color, and then with color, you can take off the color, and then you can actually shift this bar line. And then for the bass clef, what we'll do is we will change the bass clef to 3 quarter rests, and then we'll take off these 2, and then again you're going to click the color to nothing, and then it just shows as a pickup measure. Okay, so let's go ahead and start inputting the music. Now, one thing that I have found helpful, and I don't know if what your a playing situation is or your musical proficiency, but sometimes I'll put the melody in with my left hand, and then at the same time I'm changing the note value with my right hand. So if it looks kind of weird, that's what I'm doing, because I want to be as efficient for you as possible. So you can see I input the F, but actually that needs to be a half note. So we're going to go half note, and then you can, before you input the next note, you can highlight the note, and then we're going to play another F, and then measure 2, half note, change that to a half note, and then we're going to change that, good, and then measure 4, change that to a half note, turn the volume up a wee bit so you can hear it, and then we're going to add an 8th quarter note. Now, the one thing I really like about Noteflight is that intuitively knows, for example, in that last measure that we just did, I had input a half note, and then this next note I put in, that it knows that the only value, it would not put in another half note. It sort of calculates the value. Next measure, G, and let's change that to a half note. And then B flat, half note, quarter note, half note, now this is where we're going to, actually on this measure, this is measure 8. And actually, before I forget, let's do one thing quickly so you can, if you're following along with me and you're confused about where we're at, if you want to add the measure numbers while you're composing, or if you decide to teach this to your students, you can click under formatting and then click show bar numbers above every measure, and that helps. And then we can always take that off later if you want to. So measure 9. On measure 9, we're actually going to, this is the wrong incorrect note, but we're going to erase that note to change it to a rest, because in measure 9 the left hand is going to take the melody for a half note. So, And then here we're going to have a C. And then we're going to... Now, here's another really cool feature that I really appreciate about Noteflight. So instead of having to, so we've already created the main melody, and the melody repeats itself again because that's the form of the piece. So all we're going to do is we're going to copy and paste. So we're going to copy, let's see, I saw 3 ships. So we know that this part is the same. So this part, measure 2, 3. And we're going to do Command C, and then click the measure 10 that you want it to go, and then click Command V, and it appears. So here we have the next part. So we don't actually, it saves you so much time. And then let's go ahead and we need to add, so we're going to continue on. So if you want to add a measure, under measure there's little plus and minus. So if you want to add a measure after, which is what we want, go ahead and click the plus button and it will add a measure. And then to continue the melody, let's go back to here and we're going to put input it, and then we're going to change that to a half note. E, half note. Now for this next measure, they're all quarter notes. Next measure, they're dotted half notes. We'll change that to a half note, and then the little dot here, you can see, just put rhythm dot right there, and then it changes. And then the last measure, just a half note. So we'll take off that dot. Okay, and then because we have the pickup line, first of all, let's erase this measure. So if you want to erase a measure or delete a measure, there's a little minus sign. So delete that measure, and then we're going to take that rest off, even though it's technically still there, because we have that pickup at the beginning of the piece. So let's now, I realize this is going to be out of tempo, but to be honest with you, I gotta take myself off the screen for a second. When I'm composing and I'm not teaching, I actually have my tempo up rather fast because I can hear things rapidly and it saves a lot of time. But obviously we'll go ahead and change the tempo down. But for now, let's just leave it as it is so we can hear it quickly, make sure we have everything correct. Now, to play the melody back, all you have to do is up in the corner where it says play, click play, and let's listen. Now, warning, there might be a little bit of feedback because I'm going through my computer and my keyboard and all of that. So I do apologize if there's a bit of feedback. Okay, so let's go to the beginning. I'll highlight that. Okay. So you see we caught our mistake already. Okay, so not a mistake, but remember the left hand's going to be taking over the C in measure 9. So let's continue on, measure 10. All right, so there is a mistake here. So let's just click stop. So there's a repeat here that there's 2 bars that we need to take out. Now, word of caution, if you want to play it back just to hear yourself on your keyboard, be really careful. Make sure a measure is not highlighted. Otherwise, you will be importing notes that you don't want to import. So I'm going to zoom out for a second. I'm going to start at measure 9 and just play through this, make sure, let's see. And it says, okay, not be entered. That's what you want. Okay, So we need to take out measure 14. So all you do is highlight that measure and go up to measure and click delete measure. Let's make sure our melody makes sense now. Measure 10, 12, 13. Okay, measure 14, we don't need that one. Delete measure. Okay, let's play it one more time. Measure 10. Good, we've got it. All right, now let's click save. Now let's go. Now if you want to zoom in or zoom out, all you have to do is click the zoom button and you can just zoom in a little bit so you can see. Okay, let's remove the color because we don't need to see that. Okay. Now, if you are watching this live with me, you can leave me a comment or actually leave me a question and I will get back to you. Or if you're watching this in the replay, leave me a comment or a question and I will get back to you as soon as I can. So let's add in the left hand. All right, so left hand is pretty straightforward. So we're going to add the A. And that's actually a half note, dotted half note. And these notes, the note value doesn't change until we get to measure, let's see, measure 8. So half note. Okay, and then in measure 9, we're actually going to have C, but it won't be a dotted half note. And we'll get to that in a minute, because we're going to edit that measure because I'm going to show you how to put some directions in. And measure 10, we're back to dotted half note. Add a dot. Now you could just as easily copy and paste the left hand from measures 2 through 8, or you can input it quickly because it's just the dotted half note. Okay, and this last measure, it's actually not a dotted quarter note. We're going to take off that dot. We're going to erase. Actually, we're going to, it doesn't matter really what that note looks like, but just for consistency, we're going to go back to color. We're going to mute that. And then obviously we don't need this extra measure. So we're going to go to delete measure. And okay, so now we have, let's click on save. So now we have the basic melody. And then I think the next thing that we want to do is let's start inputting a few finger markings. Now, I do want to show you, I'm not sure if we're going to do it in this video, but I do want to show you if you I want to give you the option if you want to change the color of your notes. Now, I just want to make a quick segue here. So in MoveOverMozart, this is my company's name, we have a method, the musical color palette, and the each note is associated with a particular color. It's not the same thing as when someone, it's not like each note has a different color. It's the finger that you use is a color, and this has to do with developing the technique and the sensitivity. So this is why, one of the reasons why I like Noteflight, because it's so easy to add colors to your notes. You don't have to, but it's an option. So let's see, the next thing I want to do is let's add some chord names. So this also gives the option if you are the type of musician or you're creating this score for people that have a little bit more background and they want to be able to improvise. So let's add some chord. Let's add some chords here. Now it's super easy to add chords as well. So all you have to do is click on, and then you're going to scroll down to text. And under text, you have chord symbol, and all you do, you can either click on the chord symbol or alternatively just click K, and then you can put in the chord symbol. So this is F major, and then it's F major all the way through. And then we're going to K for chord symbol. Let's put C7, C major 7. And then the next change is major 10, so K, F major. And then the next chord change, click on K, and then we have a C major 7. And then the last chord in major 17, so push K, is F major. So now we have the chord symbols. Now you see here in measure 10 how that chord symbol is covering the measure number. Don't worry about that because we're going to take off the measure numbers. We'll measure each line, but we'll not, you can if you want to, but if you want to do that, you're going to have to move you'll have to move things around, and that can get quite tedious, but you're more than welcome to if you want to keep each individual measure number. So let's click on save, and let's see. Okay, so we have that. Now let's start adding in some details. Let's add in some dynamics. Now, the easiest way that I have found, which there's a couple different ways you can add dynamics, is you can the measure, and then you can go down to the list, and you can hover over, and you can choose from these dynamics. But obviously, they're not all listed here. So what you do is you click Command E. So this right here, and then you hover over the note that you want, and we're going to click Command E, and you'll see it'll come up, and we're going to start this piece mezzo piano, and there it is. Let's see. Let's do. Let's add. I'm going to move this over here now a little bit so I can. And remember, if you have any questions, just leave them for me, and I'll do my best to answer them for you. So in measure, let's see. So at the end of measure 5 on B, I want this here. So let's do Command E. I want this mezzo forte. And then let's see. Oh yes, let's add a crescendo from mezzo piano to mezzo forte. So an easy way to do that is let's go on dynamics and let's check dynamics so they'll show up here up on the levels up here, which makes it easier when you're working with when you're adding dynamics. So to add a crescendo, now this is one trick you have to be careful of, and I'm going to save this just in case, is when you're adding a dynamic, if you highlight both the treble clef and the bass clef, you'll get 2 dynamic signs. So just highlight one clef or the other. So let's do to G, and then we're going to hover over crescendo and click crescendo, and there you have it. That is just, that's so beautiful. I mean, it's so easy and so simple. And let's see, what else do we want to add? Oh yes, so something else that you want to be mindful of. So remember when we were talking about this measure 9, which is a little bit different. We're going to add some direction. So let's stick with the dynamics, but don't let me forget, we have to come back to measure 9. Let's do a little diminuendo here. So do Command E, and we're going to type in D-I-M, diminuendo, and then measure. Here we're going to do Command E, mezzo forte. It's the same thing that we did up earlier at these other measures because the melody is the same. So I'm just going to zoom out just a little bit so you can get the bigger picture. So mezzo forte, and then we want mezzo piano, we want mezzo forte on this beat, so Command E, mezzo forte, and then we want to add that crescendo in. So we're going to highlight that through the G, and then we're going to click on crescendo, and the next dynamic we want, and I know this is a little far zoomed out, but sometimes when you're adding these details and you want to see where things match up, to zoom out is easier, and then we can always zoom back in and we can tweak the fine details. So F to A, we want crescendo, and then on the left we want a decrescendo. Cool. All right. So let's add in a couple more directions here. I want a poco ritardando, so in the last two measures. So let's go in. Let's do, so if you want to add text, let me zoom in here so you can see this a little bit better. Let's do a quick save. So let's, to add directions, this is where, I mean, you could add it in as an expression. It totally depends. So let's do, so Command E, we're going to put poco ritardando, poco rit, and there it shows up just there. So yeah. So that is one way, or you can put it in as text, but it's up to you. All right, so we have all of our dynamics in. Okay, now the next thing we want to do is, let's add a little bit of fingering, but before we do that, let's approach this measure 9. So what you're going to do is you are going to, let's do formatting, because what we're doing is we're indicating that this note here, so let's Command expression or text, we're going to put parenthesis left hand, so the reader knows that the left hand takes the C, and then the reader knows the right hand then picks back up with this C here. So let's do Command E and then parenthesis right hand. Okay, and okay, so let's do something that, now remember, we're thinking about the person who's going to be playing our music. So the note size is fine. Staff spacing, I think I'd like it a little bit bigger. You see how it makes it it widens it a little bit? And I think the system spacing is okay. So let's just see how that looks. Because see, it was a bit squished before. So I'm liking this look a little bit better. Okay, so okay, so now we have the right hand. So the reader knows that their left hand takes a C, measure 9 for the half note, and then they picks up again with the right hand. That's fine. Now let's add some fingering. Fingering is super easy. So for fingering, now I've experimented a few different ways. So for fingering, let's add fingering, you can add it as text, which the one reason that I really like to add fingering as text and not expression is, for the most part, it keeps the fingering even, right, on the score, instead of you having to shift and move and, you know, balance out where the fingering placement is above or below each note. So let's do T is for text, to make sure the caps is not on. So T, and then we're going to put a 1. Let's go to save. And let's take off the color line so you can have a bigger picture. And we're done with dynamic, so we'll take that off as well. Layout, we can take off layout. Okay. So, and let's see here. Okay. And let's add a 3. So T and then 3. And then it's fairly intuitive where we want our reader. And I know this looks really messy right here, but when we take off the measure numbers, it'll be fine. 5. And then here, let's do text for finger number 2. Text, and then they've got the left hand. Let's keep working on the first line. So T3. Now, here's the thing. When you first input, not all the time, but what I found is when you put text in for the left hand, it often jumps, or the fingering number through text, it often jumps above the note. So what you want to do the first time is it will appear as it is here. You see how it's above the note? So all you want to do is you want to drag that down. And you see that little orange line? You want to place your finger number right there. And then after that, all of your left hand fingering should go below the notes. And then I think this is pretty intuitive. Let's add a 2 here. So click on that B. So T, we're going to add the second finger there. And then for this one, we're going to add a T for text, and we're going to put 1. So we're good. Here, we'll put a T1 for fingering. And then the fingering is the same as it was in measures and the first 8 measures because it's a repeat, the same melody, but there is a difference here. So let's make sure that our readers can know exactly what they're doing. Let's put a 2 here, T2, left hand, right hand, which is actually a finger number, 4, and then let's put a 2, T for 2, and then obviously 1, and then we'll put a 3, so our reader knows. Okay, so now let's take off our measure numbers just to look at our arrangement. Make sure. Now all you do is you click on formatting and then uncheck show bar number above every measure. We'll go save. Okay, so you can see here how it's a little bit squishy. So all you have to do is let's move the chord symbol down a little, just a hair, because I think it's more important to keep the finger numbers even than the chord than the chord symbols even. So we can move that one down. That one's fine. And then in the last 2 measures, we're going to move that down just a wee bit. Okay, so I think we have that. Okay, so let's do a save. Now, let's add, now this is optional. This is something that you don't have to do, but if you want to, it depends on your teaching style. It depends on how much time you have. It depends. It's absolutely optional. But what you can do is you can add colors. So my colors, as I mentioned earlier, correlate to the fingering. It has nothing to do with the actual note keys. So let's see. Maybe what we can do is you want to add the lyrics in last because the lyrics change, but the notes stay the same. And we can always go back and make a copy of this and make just a black and white copy if we want to. So so for color, this is where it gets kind of fun. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see. All right, so let's take off. We don't need to see the measures. We don't just need to see duration. All we're going to look at now is color. So, oops. And if you make a mistake, Command Z or Command Z is your best friend. Okay, if you make a mistake, Command Z, Command Z, best option. All right, so here, all you have to do is, now a quick way to add color is you click on the note and then you can use your arrow key to move back and forth between the notes instead of having to click on each note. So let me show you how to do that. Okay, so we've highlighted the color palette here. Now my one is a purple. Oops. A purple. My three is a yellow. And my purple. See what I'm doing? All I'm doing is I'm just going back and forth with my arrows, and then I'm hovering with my mouse over the different colors. So 2 is red, and then yellow, 5, 2, 4, 3. Oh yeah, another cool thing you can do is you can, if you have a set of repeated notes, highlight those notes and then click the color. But we don't have really, we have, well, 2 repeated notes, but you can do that if you want. So that's a purple. 3 is yellow. 2 purple, and then we're just gonna, even though we're gonna do one clef at a time. 1 is in left hand purple. Let's go back to the right hand. Purple. And then you can also use this as your guide, or you can copy and paste. We can do it either way to save time. Let's see here. Let's do a copy and paste. So we have everything's the same through. Everything's the same through measure. So we'll copy and paste so we don't have to keep doing the same thing over and over again. So you see how easy that was? And then the very, so all I did was copy and paste Command C, Command V, so we don't have to go through and put all the colors in again. Let's do a quick save. And then down to measure 15. So that's purple. I'm using the arrow key again. 3, 1. That's how easy it is to put the colors. Okay, let's go and put our left hand colors in. 3. Do a quick save. 2, 3, 2. You could copy and paste that part as well. 1 is purple. 2. Okay, so we have the same thing here. So let's do, now the one thing I do want to remind you of is it copies everything. So if you have, you shouldn't, but if this is the case, if you have, if you want to use different fingering, even though the notes are the same, it will, when you copy and paste, it copy and pastes everything. So just be mindful of that. So let's copy and paste these measures on our left hand. So Command C, and then we'll copy and paste there. And then to highlight is the E, which is yellow. Do Command Save. Okay, so we have all of that. Now let's, I'm going to speed up the tempo here because, or we can change this to a quarter note or eighth note to make it fast. Let's just listen to it really quick to make sure that everything's fine. Oh yes, and you notice here how I change the tempo in the first measure, it automatically reverts to the original tempo. So you're going to want to highlight it and erase it so the tempo is consistent throughout the piece, if that's what you want. And save. Okay, this is going to be not the right tempo, but let's hear it, what it sounds like. What's going on here? Let's see what that tempo is like. Just to hear. We don't want that tempo. Let's see what this tempo sounds like. Let's change this back to a quarter note. All I'm trying to do is I just want to listen to it really quickly. Alternatively, I could play it as well. I guess it doesn't really matter. Okay, and then let's remember it only does the tempo for the first, changes reverts. Let's see. I'm pretty happy with that. So now we're going to add in those lyrics. Now when I was using Sibelius and Finale in my undergraduate and graduate studies in my work, my work was almost completely classical in terms of my composing, and so I never really had to add lyrics. But the one thing I like about Noteflight, it is so easy to add lyrics. So let me show you how to do that. So to add lyrics, let's take off the tempo, even though we're going to change that. So to add lyrics, all you're going to do is you're going to hover over text, and lyrics is Command L. Okay, so Command L, don't forget that. That will very soon be one of your best friends. We're going to do Command L, I, and then it automatically hovers to the next note, saw, and then if you push the space bar, it moves to the next note. So I saw 3. Okay, now let's see. So what we'll have to do is we're going to have to move that down because we don't want it to cover our lyrics. I'm going to move this expression down, and then we'll move that down a little bit too. Okay, let's go back. Command L, ships, come. And if you make a mistake like I just did, just highlight the word, click Command L, okay, so you see here how that diminuendo is above, or it's in the center middle of our lyric. Just move it down. It's that easy, so simple. Okay, and then Command L. Now, oh yes, before I forget, you see what happened here when I clicked on this note and I clicked lyric? You see how it went, down below. So Command L, the lyric's gonna go down here. You don't want that. So, and I mean, you can if you want, but for this score, I'm choosing, I want it centered in the middle of my measure. So click the rest, and then you can put lyrics under rest. Okay, and then space bar, and then space, let's see, highlight note, Command L, I. Now again, we've got expression marks right hand. All we have to do is we can move that. We can move it anywhere, but you see that little orange line that appears? If you move it over here, it's going to assume that it's under beat 2. We want to keep it under beat 3, or you can even move it up here, which might look better anyway. Okay, and then back to Command L. Okay, again, we're just going to move that expression mark down. Same issue up the top. Command L lyric. Oops. Now if you make a mistake, just go back. Let's move this out of the way so we can see it. Dash, and then ing, saline in, and then on. Now we know that our expression mark is going to be over that. Just go like that. Okay, and then click on the next note. Command L for expression. I don't know why it keeps putting in 2 S's for some reason. Big deal. That's the great thing about Noteflight. You just correct it. It's so easy. Okay, and then let's go ahead and move our expression marks down. Okay, let's do Command Save. Okay, let's do a quick playthrough. Sounds good to me. Remember, if you have any questions or comments, you can leave me a reply right now in the live chat, or if you are watching this on the replay, you can leave me a comment and I will try and answer as many of your questions as I can. So back to the score. Now you see we have the tempo marking, which I think could be a wee bit faster. But again, you know, you can, when you're creating your score, you can make it any tempo that you like. I think I want to have it at 175. And then remember, you have to remember it only applies to that measure unless you highlight the entire piece. Now I want to add a little direction with the tempo marking. So you can click on this measure and you can click Command E, and then you can write in, I'm going to write calm, and then we'll move that expression mark up here. If it lets me, it might not let me move it above. Oh, there we go. Okay. So sometimes I found it's a little bit finicky if you have to move your expression mark or directions, or alternatively, we can erase that and we can do text. Let's see if that's, oh, that's better. I like that. Except I wish that the directions were italicized, but that's not the end of the world. Let's see. And sometimes you just, oh, there we go. Sometimes you just have to play around a little bit. I don't think it's not going to let us go. But what we can do is we can move the tempo marking. I should be able to. I want to move the tempo marking. It's not the end of the world, but I think we need the word and the directions close to the tempo, but you know, we can leave it there for now. All right, so I think we have everything that I wanted to put in. I think that is everything. Now, depending on how you are planning to share this music, you can download it as a PDF. You can save it as an MP3. You can save it as an XML file. There's so many options, but for now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to save it, and then in a separate video, I'll show you how I transform what is really truly just a simple piece, how I'm going to up-level it through Canva. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, and please leave me a comment, like, and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you at the next lesson.